When you think of Nickelodeon, you may think of goofy jokes, fun animation, and green slime. However, you probably wouldn't think of romance. Nick does have its share of cute love stories, even if they aren't always the main focus. And then there are romantic subplots that probably could have used an extra draft or two. Of all the romantic relationships, which are the healthiest and which are the totally toxic? Hey guys, I'm Brad with Wicked Binge, and this is Nicktoons Romances, Healthy to Toxic. Before we start, a couple of rules. First, only 2 pairings per show, if only to make sure that one show doesn't dominate the entire list. Second, only animated Nicktoons, so no live-action pairings. With that said, let's start our list. As always, we're going to be starting with our healthier relationships before working our way down, and while there aren't very many, they certainly come off as the best of the rest. These relationships are the healthy. For the gold medal of healthiness, we're giving it to Lori and Bobby from the Loud House. Teen romances can often be filled with turmoil and drama, or at least, that's how often they're portrayed in media. Thankfully, Lori and Bobby are able to, for the most part, have a healthy and happy relationship. Occasionally, something will come between them, like Lincoln's treatment of Bobby's sister, Ronnie Ann, or some brief jealousy on Lori's part. But outside of those instances, they're always seen as loving and incredibly supportive of each other. Bobby does this well, as we see him comfort and help Lori throughout the series, even if it's something inconvenient for him, and Lori always appreciates this. When they briefly worry that they're losing their spark due to their long-distance relationship, we see just how much they genuinely love each other and how much they want to stay together and how much they get along. It's no wonder why they've been together for the entirety of the series, hence why we're giving them the gold medal. The silver medal of healthiness goes to Sokka and Suki from Avatar: The Last Airbender. We've spoken about this pairing before, so we'll try not to repeat ourselves too much, but if you've seen our Avatar relationships video, then you expected them to be pretty high on the list. While their relationship only had a few episodes dedicated to it, watching them grow together and form a genuinely romantic relationship was sweet and satisfying. With a relationship that's built on mutual respect, Sokka and Suki are always there for each other and understand each other. They rarely fight, and when they do have any sort of issues or conflict, they're able to talk it out and come back together stronger than ever. You also have to love a couple that can fight side by side when things get tough. It could be said that maybe they got together too quickly, especially after Sokka was sexist towards Suki and the other Kyoshi warriors.
Of course, I was going easy on you.
Of course.
But with how apologetic Sokka was afterwards, and with how much chemistry there was between them, could you really blame them? Finishing up this tier is our bronze medal pairing, Danny and Sam from Danny Phantom. Probably the most turbulent pairing in this tier. It barely squeaks in because of their strong friendship that serves as the basis for this relationship. Being his friend since the 2nd grade, Sam was one of the first 2 people Danny trusted with his ghost secret.
Oh, here, my hands are warm.
Although they argue or struggle to understand each other, they'll always fight for each other, often literally, given some of their ghostly enemies, and will still come together despite any disagreements. In addition to being protective, there's always a decent amount of trust and genuine love, even before things become romantic. Prior to their relationship becoming a thing, both Danny and Sam show small bouts of jealousy, which isn't great, but thankfully, these moments are never too concerning. In addition, Sam is almost always there to support Danny in his hero efforts, save for 1 or 2 moments where she's a bit more judgmental or disagrees with his methods. Danny, meanwhile, at least tries to support Sam's more alternative lifestyle, and, unlike other characters, tries not to judge her too much for being goth or vegetarian. While some of their disagreements or conflicts can be noteworthy, they're ultimately overshadowed by all the positive aspects of their relationship. Next, we have the relationships that could probably use some improvement. Welcome to the gray area. First is the classic pairing of Arnold and Helga from Hey Arnold. Although this relationship is portrayed as one-sided throughout most of the series, there's enough there to qualify for this list. Simply put, Helga was more than a little obsessed with Arnold when it came to her crush on him. Whether it's bullying him at school or writing poems about him at home, it's nearly impossible for Helga to stop thinking about him.
What are you looking at, geek bait?
This led to a bit of friction between her and Arnold, but while Arnold sometimes got frustrated, he almost always gave her a chance, believing that there could potentially be a good person in Helga. While her true feelings may have proved to be a lot for him, judging by his reactions in both movies to her love confessions, Arnold genuinely cares about Helga and even finds himself falling for her on a couple of occasions, such as the Valentine's Day episode and the very end of the Jungle movie. Ultimately, because of Helga's more stalkerish moments and all the bullying and other not-so-great moments that came from her wanting to hide her true feelings, we couldn't put this relationship in the good tier, meaning that it lands a spot on the high end of gray. Next is Darren and Ginger from As Told by Ginger. In comparison to Lori and Bobby, this pairing is more what we were expecting in terms of teen romance, drama included. But that's not to say that Darren and Ginger didn't have a good relationship starting out. Being friends and neighbors for years, Darren was one of Ginger's closest friends, always trying to be there for her, and at times being a better friend than Dodie was. Unfortunately, things took a turn for the worse when they entered high school. With Darren being busy with sports and Ginger being busy with her writing and schoolwork, they became distant. Another obstacle was a cheerleader named Simone, who Darren quickly became attracted to. While there was no physical cheating, there was some emotional cheating, leading to Darren breaking up with Ginger. They are pretty awkward after that, struggling to be normal around each other, but still obviously caring about each other. It was obvious that there was never any maliciousness between them, just bad timing and maybe some immaturity. While we don't get to see their full reconciliation, it's revealed at the end of the last episode that they get married, are happy together, and even have a daughter. It may have taken some extra time and some heartbreak, but it's nice that they were eventually able to work things out. Now we have Jimmy and Cindy from Jimmy Neutron. For a lot of fans, one of the best ship dynamics ever is rivals to romance, and these two definitely fit that dynamic. Throughout the first half of the series, they're mostly just arguing and insulting each other, not even having much of a friendship. Things began to slowly change, however, after the Valentine's Day special. Even after the love potion from that episode wore off, Jimmy and Cindy's feelings for each other didn't really go away. Things got even messier when other various love interests were introduced, such as Timmy Turner during the crossover episodes and Betty Quinlan and April the Gorlock. Naturally, both characters ended up showing a ton of jealousy in these instances, with Cindy's jealousy being especially destructive, specifically in the episode Vanishing Act.
You made Nurtron go gaga over you and do a stupid magic show!
It also took a while for Jimmy and Cindy to not only open up to each other, but also to accept their true feelings. Even then, there's still an element of secrecy to their relationship, as it's revealed in the third season that they actually get along when they're alone and pretend to argue only when others are around. We're cutting them some slack, cause they're just kids. Still, for their sake, we hope that they eventually get better at being honest with both their feelings and their affections. Now we have Mr. Krabs and Mrs. Puff from SpongeBob SquarePants. What was once a one-episode concept has actually become a stable element in the show's later seasons, and while it's not quite a fairy tale romance, it has been interesting to watch develop. Outside of the pairing's debut episode, they were seen dating in the episodes Whirly Brains, Feral Friends, My Two Krabses, and Kooky Cooks. While Mrs. Puff is quickly charmed by him when he first asks her out, thinking that he's sweet, and even accepting that he also considers money one of his two great loves, she gets fed up with him. Mr. Krabs also let his rivalry with Plankton get the better of him, resulting in the two of them throwing Mrs. Puff's boating school into chaos. Mr. Krabs also banned Mrs. Puff from the Krusty Krab, thinking that she was working for Plankton when, in actuality, she was just planning a surprise party for him. Thankfully, Mr. Krabs made amends for this. We also have to admit, when they're being more romantic and flirty, it's kinda cute, because their relationship is still new and hasn't been the main focus of a ton of episodes. It's hard to say how deep or genuine their relationship is, which is why we can't place it any higher. But, we're rooting for them. Nearing the end of this tier, we have Jenny and Sheldon from My Life as a Teenage Robot. Although not an official couple, they got pretty close to dating at times, so we're counting it. As friends, they are pretty sweet. Sheldon is one of the only few who won't judge Jenny for being a robot, and as such, is always willing to help her out, something that Jenny appreciates and is never seen taking advantage of. Sheldon is the only one who believes that Jenny is innocent when she seemingly destroys an entire year's worth of holidays, and in return for his trust, Jenny is willing to give him a quick kiss on the cheek under the mistletoe. She also gives him a quick kiss after he saved her and all the robots in Trimmerton from a top-secret organization that wanted to destroy them. For the most part, however, Jenny sees Sheldon as just a friend. Sheldon, on the other hand, can sometimes push things too far when it comes to his crush. In one episode, he stole the XJ9 master plans from Dr. Wakeman's lab in order to find a way into Jenny's heart. He also disguised himself as the Silver Shell to get Jenny to fall for him, figuring that if he made robot boys look bad, she would start to prefer humans over robots. It should also be noted that Sheldon can be a bit possessive over Jenny, even having a shrine dedicated to her at one point. But unlike with a character like Helga, who does similar things, Sheldon really should know better given that he's a teenager and not an elementary schooler. While their strong friendship saves them from a lower ranking, we had to take a few points away way for all the dishonesty and slight creepiness on Sheldon's part. Just barely making it out of the toxic tier, we have Timmy and Trixie from Fairly OddParents. It's a shame that this relationship didn't turn out better because it really did have a lot of potential. There's a reason why the episode, The Boy Who Would Be Queen, is considered a classic after all. At the start, Timmy was a normal kid who was slowly but surely getting to know his crush, while Trixie was a popular girl that ended up having a bit more depth to her than you might have thought. Unfortunately, as the series went on, Trixie began to lose her relatability. The biggest showing of this was in the episode Just the Two of Us, when, after Timmy wishes that he and Trixie were the only people on Earth, Trixie goes crazy from a lack of attention. Without a ton of other boys fawning over her, Trixie becomes demanding and incredibly possessive, only seeing Timmy as a means for validation instead of an actual partner. This pairing gets a little bit of redemption in the Wishology trilogy, where they not only briefly work together, but also share their first kiss. For the most part, outside of Just the Two of Us, Trixie tends to show a bit more interest in him, allowing her to at least reach the level of friend, even if the romantic aspects of the relationship still need more work. Finally, we have relationships that would probably be better off broken up. Thankfully, only 3 canon Nickelodeon couples fall under what we would call toxic. These are the toxic relationships. First, we have the bronze medal of toxicity. We have Plankton and Karen from SpongeBob. Honestly, they could have landed in either the gray or toxic, but ultimately, we had to go with the latter. In several instances, we've seen that they have a fairly loveless marriage, with Karen often sounding bored or apathetic, even when her husband is genuinely struggling, while Plankton struggles to care about her in return. There are even times where he's stolen her ideas and even once used her as a test subject when he was trying out his goo-goo gas. Plankton has also essentially cheated on Karen in 2 separate instances, first with Mr. Krabs' mother, and then with Karen 2.0. Ouch. We also can't forget all the times that Plankton has put getting the secret formula over spending time with his wife, as we see when they go on a honeymoon or have a date night. Similar to Mr. Krabs and Mrs. Puff, they have had some fairly sweet moments, which ultimately keeps them from the very bottom. Occasionally, we'll see them be genuinely affectionate or romantic, especially in the later seasons. He writes a song just for her during their anniversary, although he was partially doing this in order to get his gift, which was, of course, the Krabby Patty secret formula. In a more genuine example, in the second SpongeBob movie, we see Plankton apologize for all the times he took her for granted, telling her that he's glad she's on his team, before shutting her down for their time machine. Getting the silver medal of toxicity, it's Cosmo and Wanda from Fairly OddParents. The Fairly OddParents is a more comedic show, so it's not great with its romantic elements. Namely, sometimes it can rely on some, shall we say, outdated comedy. This is even more of a shame when it comes to Cosmo and Wanda, as they started out as an incredibly loving and adorable married couple that hated being apart from each other. After the first few seasons, they devolved into Wanda just being a nag and Cosmo being the typical idiot husband that's found in a lot of animated comedies. While Cosmo would often either ignore Wanda's advice, or at worst, insult her by calling her a nag or bringing up her weight, Wanda would usually retaliate with plenty of cartoony violence.
Hey! You made me make a poopy!
Even when they had an actual sweet moment, like in School's Out the musical, where they both got arrested by Jorgen and needed to find a way to escape, any sweetness or genuine love is often undercut with a lame joke that hints more at secret resentment than any sort of love. In some of the later season's worst instances, it almost seems like they wish they had never gotten married. It's frustrating, and while we can mostly blame the writers for this change, the pairing itself still manages to land near the bottom. And finally, our gold medal of toxicity goes to Mako and Korra from The Legend of Korra. This one is not great. Mako and Korra's relationship has lived on in infamy for just how much it ultimately crashed and burned, despite being pushed so far in the first season.
Oh, you're still here?
Oh, you're still a jerk?
It's pretty bad when you start getting drama long before they even got together, with Korra and Mako both focusing on each other and making subtle moves, while Mako was still technically dating Asami. Once they did get together, their so-called honeymoon phase was non-existent. Pretty much from the word go, all we saw with Mako and Korra was them arguing and having friction. While Mako would try to make things work, Korra often felt like he was taking everyone else's side instead of standing by her. This would result in her ignoring him whenever he would try to give her advice. When they finally broke up, Korra wrecked Mako's desk in a fit of rage before storming off, only to get amnesia and forget that they were no longer together. This wouldn't be too big of a deal if not for Mako being too chicken to correct her. And this comes after he briefly got back together with Asami, by the way. Thankfully, by the end of the second season, both the characters and the writers came to their senses, and Mako and Korra were broken up for good, remaining decent friends for the rest of the series. What was once seen as the show's main ship quickly became an aggravation for the audience. You could count the times they were actually romantic or cute together on one hand, and in all honesty, they never should have gotten together in the first place. For all these reasons, we're giving the Makora ship the title of Most Toxic Nicktoons Romantic Couple. Alright guys, that's it. Let us know in the comment section if you agree with our ranking, and tell us what we should cover next. Remember to hit that notification bell and binge more of our videos, but most importantly, stay wicked.